Okay, project area. So this is just to give you an idea of what we're talking about. I think you're all very familiar with the area. It starts at 63rd and essentially goes up to California, this project here. You might hear us talking about the bottom of the hill. That's closer down by 59th. You might hear us talking about the top of the hill. That's closer to 47th. And what are our project goals? Well, we want to encourage slower speeds. And Sam will go over a little bit about what the speeds on average are out here. We want to reduce collisions. We want to provide a more comfortable and predictable bike connection from the Alki Beach area up to this awesome business district that we're in. And we want to accommodate on-street parking. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Sam, and she's going to go into the data.
Thanks, Don. I think a lot of you have seen a little bit of this presentation, so we all know that the highest speeds are where there's the grade, and that's basically from this section to this section. These sections have parking, high use on both sides, it's flatter, the speeds are lower. So one of the reasons this street probably has higher speeds is it's 54 feet wide. That's a pretty wide street for 2 lanes of travel. The travel lanes are 12 feet wide. That's freeway-sized lanes on an arterial street in Seattle. It has a lot. Sometimes we say, how can we slow people down? There's a lot of things we can do to visually narrow it. Along this street, the planting strips are non-existent, so there's not a lot of opportunity, and also with views, probably not a lot of desire to have trees that could kind of frame the street and visually narrow the street to slow people down. Those are just some of the things that we've looked at to slow traffic down. So how many people drive on the street? And this should be no surprise. Further up at California, we have nearly 14,000 vehicles a day. And as you get down to the bottom towards Alki, you get just over 6,000 vehicles a day. So how many people bike along Admiral Way? And this was a count taken in April. On Monday, it was the nicest day. The 2 count locations, the blue is closer to Stevens and the gray is closer to 48th. So 48th is closer up the top of the hill. So there's more bikes. It's just like traffic. As you get closer in the denser areas, that's where the more bicycles are. So this is a all-day count. It's not super high, but then again, there are no bike facilities on this street, and so you wouldn't expect to necessarily see a lot of bikes. No, thank you for pointing that out. We actually went back because we got that comment. You probably wrote it in, right? And we looked at it, and so we have the exact number of hours, and there was overlap on the 2 Mondays, but we actually picked the lower of the bicycle volumes on the overlap. So, but we can, I don't know if Dawn or Adon have that data, but it's on our website now. That makes it a little bit more clear. But we can also talk to you a little bit more in detail. Well, Dawn, thank you, Dawn. Okay, so when we first presented the plan, we heard, nope, can't do that. You guys really need to go out there during the summer and do a parking study. So we did, and you know what? You were right. We know that there's a lot more parking, especially where people are accessing Alki Beach. Where you see the orange lines, that's where we have over 50% parking occupancy. Where it's green, it's less than 10%.
Remember back when we counted cars, we counted bicycles. Admiral is material that had been counted emergency response vehicles. Ambulance, police, and fire, all on. Something to keep in mind if you're trying to slow traffic down. Emergency response don't want to slow traffic down.
Yeah, I hear you, and I think that, when you see the lights coming and you pull over to let them go through, you'll see that, yes, so good point. All right, so we revised the parking count. You can see what that made us realize is parking is a huge priority in these orange areas, and you'll see how we revised that first plan. So this was our initial concept. We've tossed that out. I don't need to spend any time talking about it. But what we heard when we presented that at the first open house was you really need to reduce speeding and vehicle collisions along the corridor. We had to redo the parking study during the summer months, and we chose, it was in August, so August 8th and August 11th, both beautiful days, just so people know. Consider removing the center turn lane to keep the parking in certain areas. They were concerned about removing the center turn lane and the potential for rear-end collisions. They were people we heard a lot about in adding more pedestrian crosswalks along the corridor, and we had a request to host a second open house. So we now have come up with two options that we wanted to share with you tonight. So thank you for bringing that up. So I don't know if people heard that, but what he was asking us to consider was to look at just installing an uphill bike lane and then putting a downhill sharrow on the street. So we are trying to attract with this project, we are trying to make all the safety improvements, but we're also trying to make it comfortable for people to ride on the street. There's a lot of people who won't feel comfortable taking the lane with a car going 37 miles per hour right behind them. So that kind of a facility doesn't work for as many bicyclists as we would like it to. Thank you. So I'm going to walk through option A really quickly, starting from down at 63rd.
Once again, people come to me after the meeting saying that makes sense, and you still haven't looked at it. I agree.
Thank you. So walking through this option, we're looking at crosswalks at 62nd and 61st. And at Elkai Elementary School is right here on 59th, and it's an arterial for the short period on 59th. And right now there's a pedestrian half signal. And what we're looking, and we want to do the count when school's in session. So we were hoping to have that information available for tonight, but as you know, today was the first day of school, and that's not a good day to do a count. So we'll do a count next week. And what we're going to look at is there a possibility to make this a calmer street by putting in an all-way stop? So then going further up, when we went to the Admiral Neighborhood Association, we heard there was a lot of demand for making left turns at 57. So we're going to do the count there as well and see what kind of volume we have. And I have notes on the table from when I chatted with a few people where else we should do counts to look at, is this a place we should look at putting in a left turn pocket? So if you have other suggestions and ideas, you can either write them on that paper and find the intersection, or come and talk to me, or Dawn, or even a Dawn, or Tong Ho. All right, so going further back up the hill, on the south side of the street, in the uphill direction, we have a radar feedback sign. And so this project will install the radar feedback sign going in the downhill direction. So that's right near 51st, this is where the green belt is. So going further up, this is a 49th. We're looking at putting in the left turn pocket here because 49th is also an arterial street, so there's a lot of turns there. And then 47th is where you have the brand new traffic signal, and so have left turn pockets there. And then, of course, maintain the left turn pocket at California.
On the chart over there that says east of Southwest Stevens, option A shows no parking on the north side of the street. Is that disconnected with what you're showing here?
I'm going to go into option B, so you'll see what I'm talking about after I get through A. So this is basically what this option would look like. And going in the uphill direction, we have a 3-foot buffer between the bike lane and the moving traffic because there's a very big speed differential between a bicyclist going uphill and a car or a vehicle going uphill. On the downhill direction, we have the buffer next to the parked cars because for the people who park here right now, right immediately next to them is a 12-foot wide travel lane with people going close to 40 miles per hour. What this proposal would do is to put a buffer so they have a door zone so they can get out of the car and not be right next to traffic. That also keeps the bicyclists out of that door zone because we did, that's an obvious concern that if you open your car door and there's a bicyclist right there. So the bike speed is a lot closer to the travel speed in the downhill direction. So that is designed to be, have better interactions between the people parking, the people driving, the people riding their bikes.
Bikes are going 40 miles an hour down the hill?
No, the cars, we have 37, 38 miles per hour the speeds. So option B, which is I think what you were talking about. So some very similar down on the other end. So if I'm not right, I'll get to you. What changes is up here, because when we went to the Admiral Neighborhood Council Association, we heard that there's a great need not only at 49th for a left turn pocket, but also at 47th and Garlow, because there's a lot of vehicles turning there. So here, where we did the parking study, and there's 70 potential parking spaces on the north side of the street, and every time we've done that parking study, the most cars we've ever seen there were 2. And I know that the nursing home is currently under construction, and so there could be more if that facility were up and running, but we will be looking into that. So in this option, we would take the parking out and allow the bike lane to be along the curb on the north side of the street and maintain the two-way left turn lane. So obviously, there's also way more traffic on the upper end of this project, so there's more turns. Because when you get down to here, it's less than half the traffic volume.
I tell you, the assistant care facility owners want to keep the parking on the property.
Thank you.
I work for them, so I can tell you, matter of fact, they want the parking.
So visually, this is what that would look like. The bike lane next to the curb there, the travel lane, the two-way left turn lane, and again, we have the buffer between the travel lane and the uphill bike lane and parking.
Excuse me, that section that you're showing, that parking is utilized because that's actually west of Lander and not the section near the old age home that you were pointing out.
If this is not consistent with it, then that's our apologies. Yeah. Yeah.
That's, yeah.
Okay. I didn't. It's an error.
Just an example.
Yeah, it's just an illustration. Thank you. Okay, so now I'm going to go through the cross section starting at the bottom of the hill. Right now, you have 2 parking lanes, 2 travel lanes, and the two-way left turn lane. We have this option to have because it's flat and the speeds between the bikes and the cars, and they're more similar down here, we have the buffer next to the drive lane. So the travel lanes are narrowed somewhat, the parking lanes are a little bit narrowed, and we have the bike facility. So going a little further up the hill, and this is where we know the parking demand is super high on the north side of Admiral. And this is where they would have we kept the parking lane a little wider because when they're trying to get out of their driveway, they want to be able to see as a car is coming down the hill. So we have that wider, then we have the 3-foot buffer and the 5-foot bike lane. So when people pull out, instead of having that travel lane right next to the car, they'll be able to nose out and see traffic coming in their coming down the hill. So this is what I already kind of talked about this, so I won't go into any more detail. Again, the uphill bike lane, the buffer's next to the travel lane. So here's where we get into the 2 options between Stevens and Lander. And actually this cross section is just a little bit narrower than the rest. It's mostly 54 feet, but it's narrower right here. So option A would be to remove the two-way left turn lane, and you have the bike lane with the buffer. And option B would be to remove the parking on the north side of the street. So you can see that we keep 2 travel lanes and the two-way left turn lane. So that allows people more options. More people are turning here, and and everyone knows that with the more turns, they want to get into the two-way left turn.
Excuse me, but there's no mention of the buses. The steep hill off the bridge went over a hill, and if there's a bus stop, I've saved my life a couple times by zipping around it in that middle lane. If the middle lane is gone, then someone behind me is going to come up the hill and squeeze me between the buses, because the buses are stopped and they're blocking the road.
So,
There's 9 bus stops in that little short distance. Have you made any plans about that?
So here in this lane, they would take where we would have parking. We wouldn't have parking where there's a bus stop, and they would encroach into the buffer when they pulled over. Here, they would encroach into the travel lane because they are 8.5 feet wide. Buses are 8.5 feet wide.
So since this happens, we're going to get into the sand. You're going to eliminate the bike lane where the bus stop is.
So the bike lane becomes dashed so that the bus can actually be in the bike lane.
You're showing option E for that section between Lander and Stevens. And I thought that was the option that you guys had agreed to move away from. That was the original proposed plan, right?
Right, but
That's what originally got connected.
Yeah, so what we originally proposed was to take the parking off depending upon what side of the street had the most parking. So we scrapped that, and we are now, because we demonstrated that the parking demand was very low, the demand for the left turn pocket was higher. So this was a hybrid option to kind of address where the traffic demands were the greatest.
Right, so option B isn't really an option. So you're saying what you're showing there is option B is not really an option.
No. So I should have said our initial concept's not an option because that included taking parking off in this section, and we're not considering taking parking off in this section. So this is a hybrid. So option B does look a lot like what the initial concept looked like. But
So you still are removing parking in that area between Stevens and Landon on the north side?
it's an option that we're seeking your feedback on.
Yeah, I thought that's what I think. Yeah, it's not acceptable to any of us that live on that street.
Well,
Yeah, okay, well, let's make sure.
yeah, and again, even when we did the parking study in December, we showed similar parking demand. The parking demand didn't change that much up on the top of the hill here, but what we did in this section from here to here, out of a potential 70 spaces, we saw 2 cars parked there.
I think what you're asking is between option A and B. I think what we're here to say is that we're looking for feedback on both of those options. We haven't settled on option B or option A. We actually want to hear, because I remember we sat down and we talked about option A was your preferred. We heard back from a couple other people and they preferred option B. And so we want to hear back from you all about what works best, and then we'll have to weigh what we hear. But I recognize, please understand, it's just
2,000 petitions, 1,000 different people that
okay.
And we also read pictures during the Seafair Pirates, there was parking on both sides of the street up and down there. I don't know where you thought it was only 2 cars.
Okay. So what we heard at the Admiral Neighborhood Association was in between where we have the left turn pocket and the new signal, and to get to Lander Street, a high demand for making the turns off of Lander Street. So we said, well, we'll go back, look at another option that would preserve that because of the parking demand being so much less. You know, maybe it doesn't go all the way to Lander, or maybe it goes up here, you know, so we just, this can definitely be tweaked. So this is just what we heard, and we're responding to the feedback that we've heard.
Clarification, because with all the questions, I got kind of confused. Option A and option B is you're proposing from where to where? In other words, where are you leaving it alone the way it is now?
Okay. The only place as existing today would be this cross section for the first block. So again, so this is just showing the 2 options of one where would it serve more people on this corridor to have the 2-way left turn lane, or would it serve more people to have parking on the north side of the street?
Why is option C still being disregarded?
Oh, I feel like I've tried to address it. I was trying to
So Mark, what you're asking us to do is to provide an uphill bike lane and then have the bicycle riders ride in lane with the high-speed traffic downhill all the way down the street. And what we heard from the community and the bicycle master plan input process was that that was not something that a majority of the people, so say you're riding with your child, riding with your wife, riding with your mother, you might feel very comfortable doing that yourself, Mark, but if, at a time when, when Christy was around and you wanted to ride down, that she probably wouldn't feel very comfortable riding in lane. So what we want to do is make sure that when we put in a facility, that it provides comfort and safety for all users to the largest extent as possible, right? So that it is more accessible, and that again, it serves a larger portion of our community. And that's our goal. We want to have a safe roadway.
Why can't it change who uses the corridor?
Okay, I'm almost finished. So this is the next to last section. Existing, again, is this shared kind of part. We don't have a parking edge line, 19-foot parking, two-way left turn lane. And here we don't have enough space. Again, the cross section is just a little bit narrower, so we don't have the buffer. We have a 6-foot bike lane instead of the 5 and the 3-foot. And then again, this cross section, and thanks to whoever pointed, I don't know where you are sitting, but pointed out that we have, yes, thank you, an error on our roll plot, because we're not changing the cross section in this block between California and 46, or 40, yeah. All right. Schedule. Dawn, you want to take it away?
Yes. Okay. Okay.
It's on topic.
Okay.
If you guys are, is any kind of crosswalk or something other than the change at 59, any kind of a plan so that people can walk from wherever they do find the parking now to the beach? Because under proposal, you've got cars going by, you've got bikes going by, and you've got parked cars, and there are 0 crosswalks between 59 and 64. 0.
Can you repeat the question?
Okay, I'll repeat the question. The desire, and every time we come out here, we say, where are people crossing the street? Because we'll go out there, we'll count. So we did 3 counts. 2 of the locations actually met what we would say were enough pedestrians crossing that we would mark it, because if you mark a crosswalk and no one's ever there, drivers just start to ignore it. So that's why the crosswalk's down at the bottom where people are walking to the beach. But I did get a request and I wrote it down. So again, that's another thing you could write on this. Our roll plot is at 57th? Yeah, 57th, because it allows people to get into the park, and there's a transit stop there. So we're going to look at that location for a marked crosswalk. So that's the kind of feedback that really helps us on this. So if there's other locations, Don is right here. He'll write them down. So
We have 2 more slides. So here's the schedule. We are here at September 17th for the open house. We are asking if you could get us your comments by October 1st. We want you to know that we have the presentation that you've seen today, as well as the exhibit boards that are out there, and comment forms, because you might want to share them with your neighbors, available on our website. And these comments can be given to us on the comment sheets that we have here today. We'll be writing them down as you talk to us. As Sam says, we have opportunity over there. We've been listening to you, so we'll take back what we heard, although it's always super good to have it written down to make sure that our brain remembers it correctly. And then we would like to try and find a nice compromise and a good design that gives everyone what they need, and hopefully we can do some implementation soon. So we may switch back and forth, but I'm going to leave this up right here, which has the website address and Sam's good name on it. And then I'm going to ask Dong Ho if he could come up, and Sam's up here, and Scott's still around too. And we're going to open it up and have a conversation with you all to hear what's going on. And just a reminder of the discussion guidelines. All right?
Okay, so it seems to me safety is a good goal, and most of us all of us would agree that is a good goal, but if speed is the issue, why, I live right off of Admiral Way and Brook and I watch it all. Why don't we put some speed bumps in on here? Because quite frankly, a bicycle is not going to slow down a car as much as a speed bump will. And,
Yes.
And so, and when the bicycles, and you saw the statistics, somewhere between 12,000 and 14,000 cars are on that road, and there are 82 cyclists, sometimes it's me. But, I'm going to feel a lot safer, and there don't need to be speed bumps on the bicycle lane. But, I'm going to feel a lot safer if there's a couple of speed bumps along there that slow, and I would have to put up with them because I drive them every day. But that would be, seems like a common sense solution rather than saying, gee, if we put these lanes in, people will think they have narrower lanes so they'll drive slower. Some will, but many won't. Another question is, bicycle lanes of 5 feet. I do a fair amount of bicycling. I just finished a 2-day fundraiser up in Mount Vernon for Bike MS. I've done STP, I've done RSVP, etc. Many of these rides, you're on rides with no curves, no lanes, or whatever. I'm thrilled if I have a 3 to 4 foot bike lane. 3.5 foot bike lane, I am thrilled. And yet we're going to take 5 feet on each side. Why soon as it's 4.5 to 5 feet, people want to ride next to each other and visit. That's damn dangerous. That's a lot more dangerous.
Okay. So I'll repeat.
I just have to say that at this point, I don't think the rules, the bike laws are structured well enough where I think he's right, and I'm not a bicyclist, but I think he's right where it's very easy. People don't think about riding 2 or 3 abreast. It's easy for them to go 2 or 3 abreast, the bigger the bike is.
So one of the suggestions was if the speed is such a critical factor, why not put in speed humps to physically slow the speeds down? And it is something that we have implemented in some arterials. Where we have grades is where we want to be careful. I also heard from a couple of the conversation that I had that during the winter time there's some icing that occurs. So if you have speed humps with icing involved, that is a pretty not the great combination where you can create crashes. Again, every vehicle will encounter that. So we want to be careful about the impact. We also heard about the emergency vehicle and the criticalness of emergency first responders to get to the residents who are needing the help. We work very closely to make sure that their response and that critical seconds count, that we maintain that. And so when we are proposing traffic calming, like I said, it's something that they tell us is that on arterial streets, be careful, and especially on grades, their rigs are huge. And so the impact to them is magnified multiple times. So we have to be careful about that. On level areas is something that we do consider, and we have done some of those. Speed cushions, they can actually straddle those and not be impacted by the speed cushions, whereas vehicles slow down because they have to have one wheel on them. So those are tools that we have used and will continue to utilize them where necessary. And then the other factor about the width of the bike lane, we have national standards, so it's not Seattle alone. United States as a whole is looking at what is the appropriate facility. Next week, the American Association of State Highway Officials will be meeting in downtown Seattle, and the Bicycle Committee will be doing a design conference. I will be presenting a session with them on what we're doing in Seattle. But what we want to do is learn from them about what the best practice is. The current best practice is that the narrow bicycle lane is not something that has shown a very good safety record. And that having wider, comfortable bicycle lanes, even 5 foot, on certain corridors is not sufficient, especially on downhill grades with vehicles that are parked, because a lot of the collisions that do occur are dooring, where you might have an inexperienced rider that's trying to shy away from the vehicles that are higher speeds, and an unexpected door is really you can't avoid it. And so what we want to do is think about not yourself, because you're very much an experienced rider. It's your friend, it's your friend's child who's starting to ride, and their mother is taking that child down to the beach. And it's an excursion they want to do, and we want to make it so that it's safe as possible and that it's an option for them. As a community, we want to have that safe option. And as we create these facilities, we'll learn. So we want to hear from you as well. But again, from best practices, what we know is that door zone is pretty critical. We want to make sure that as a rider.
Okay, so now we're going to jump over to this side. So let's go ahead and go here.
What about to slow traffic down on Admiral? You have the speed signs on Admiral, and where I've always noticed that people slow down to make sure that they maintain the speed to that speed sign, whether there's an officer there or not, because they haven't really been patrolling either of those locations at many times. So if you want to slow the traffic down going in the opposite direction of downtown, why not add some more of those signs for co-location
So the question was, why not add more feedback speed radar signs? And Sam will explain to you what that is at critical points and some more enforcement to help slow down speeds.
I think with the one, it's a very good step. I think on Admiral, you know, there could be another location to put that in. We could look at that.
So if you know the particular locations where the speeding is occurring, please let us know.
Yeah. It's actually, right, people slow down for that curve at Lander because there's a really bad dent in the road and anyone who lives on there knows it's there. You have to slow down for that sink in the road. Otherwise you bounce into the middle lane. And the other spot would be, if you fix the 59th Street light and you put in a four-way, I would not suggest a stop sign because I don't think you see, I mean, fix the light but put it as a four-way stop. That would be the other location with the speed because those are right before the corners.
Before we stop at where?
59,
59.
where
Yeah.
the light is now.
So suggestion was, so we'll start doing that. So yeah, so the suggestion was to put in a, on the 59th signal, a four-way stop.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of zigzag back and right back up to you.
The reason I have a certain amount of skepticism with this project is because according to the statistics that I got from Emily Ellers, there has not been a serious accident on the street between 44th and 59th since 2008. So a serious injury accident, I should say. So it's a little disconcerting to see all those figures, and I know what those accidents are. A lot of those are impaired drivers because they have also hit my car 3 times in 25 years that I've lived here. So, and I don't think this plan is going to address impaired drivers. The question I have for you is where does this fit into the bicycle master plan? Because looking at that, what side is this, west or east of California? West? According to what I read, the west side is supposed to have the separated lanes, and the east side, which I gather is down there, just has minor separations, but it looks like we're doing the opposite here.
No, I'm pretty sure the bike master plan is protected on the uphill. Yeah, we have the map right here.
So the concern was about
Protected
the
from 45th east.
number of collisions and that those are minor fender benders and that there is no injuries and 24%. Yeah. So the bicycle master. I'll go through the injury portion of it. It's really 24% are injury collisions. But if you think about speeds, and a person on a bike or a person who's coming out of a car. If you're hit at 37 miles per hour, pretty much you're not going to survive. That is not a situation we want to tolerate in your neighborhood, in front of your house. We want to change that so that a person coming down is really respecting the activity that's in front of your home, in front of your community, and that we have a safe condition on the roadway for all users, right? That's what we want. We don't want to wait for a tragedy to happen and react, right? We want our streets to be safe.
Dangerous road. And another thing I would like to point out is when you eliminate the center lane, you're making it more dangerous for the bicyclists that are riding down a protected bike lane and they think that they're safe and they don't realize that cars are backing out from every 15 feet on that road. I mean, I am scared to death that I'm going to hit a bicyclist when I'm backing into my driveway one day.
So definitely we do not want anyone to be injured, right? So we want our facility to have, especially if you're pulling out of your driveways and alleys. I heard also that the visibility coming out is very difficult, and with high speeds, it's critical that you have that buffer space. And so that's what it does. We want to slow the traffic down. We want to give you a good sight line so that you are able to negotiate in and out of your driveways in a safe manner, right? And that's really the goal of our project. What we also know is that the center turn lane is critical at locations where we have a lot of turning traffic. And so we heard from you that where those locations are, and we're providing that. If we need to revise it, please let us know. Our experience in Dexter Avenue is that we channelize that, or we configure that roadway to have, again, from a center turn lane to a in-lane bus stop. And the volume on that street is about 14,000 vehicles, so it's approximately what we've seen on the top of the hill. It's carrying it's carrying just as much traffic. The collisions on that roadway actually improved because of the we have much safer condition. A lot of bicycle riders on that corridor, all ages, with the even tougher grade. It's a longer grade, 6.5% grade, whereas on Admiral it's about 6%. And so we know that when you put in a nice facility and that people will try it out. And then they'll say, well, it's not really something that I can do now, but maybe do it again sometime when I'm feeling a little better, or if there's a larger group. And so eventually, again, it's not going to be a facility that everybody can use, but there'll be a certain segment of your community that will try it out because it'll be also a lot more safer.
First, I'd like to say thank you. Oh my God, you guys are actually here listening to the community and actually changing what you're doing and coming up with proposals because of what people all said and did. And that is actually fantastic. So for all the people who are listening to the community, back it down a little bit because they actually aren't planning to listen. But the other thing is also look around and the cross-section of people here are the people who are motivated enough to be here. So they're not actually a full representation of the community here. And you have to realize that most of the people are driving home from work. Most of the people are stuck in traffic. Most of the people are here getting along with their busy life. And so as you're trying to slow traffic down, we still have to get somewhere. We still need a way to go places. And I ride a bike. So I ride a bike a lot, so I'm here part of the biking community, really. But I also have to drive sometimes, and you have to consider all this idea of, well, we want to slow traffic down, keep everybody safe. Well, I guess if we never can go more than 30 miles an hour anywhere, then yes, we won't get any hard accidents. But we actually do want to go somewhere. So we need a more response to that. The narrow bike lanes, I do like that idea. And I thank you very much for trying to keep the parking. That is the biggest deal that I came here for. That's the main thing that I wanted to say. So keep in mind the overall idea of how the heck are we actually going to go somewhere.
Thank you. So we're going to go back over here now and get this young lady in the green.
Yeah, I picked up a copy of the DPD today, Draft Comprehensive Growth Management Plan. And there's policies in here that say, and I'm just picking one sentence out of this entire thing, but it says, because it will be difficult to expand the space, talking about public streets, because our city space is finite, that it is important for the city to use the existing streets efficiently and wisely. And my question to you, SDOT, is this an efficient and wise change? That's a pretty global question, and it was just one that came to my mind. But another real quick aside, I've lived right off Admiral Way for years as well, as most of these people in this room. And most of the cyclists I see do not go up Admiral Way. They go around. They go around Alki. I mean, there's 2 bike lanes on Alki, and only the people that actually live on the hill that need to get down the hill or up the hill go that way, or like right in the top or something. But seriously, most of them go around, live down there as well.
Do one of you want to comment on that?
Sure. So on our comp plan, it is really taking a global look at our street space. When when we do a project, we want to make sure that we provide a street that really accommodates all modes. So we're not just creating an environment where we're trying to accommodate for the peak hour, right? Our buses take the biggest load, right? So if you look at last 10 years, it's taken 40. Our bus ridership has increased 40%. And at the same time, our population's increased 10%, and our traffic volume has decreased 11%. But we're seeing an uptick. The economy is really, really in high gear in Seattle. You see that with all the development, all the employment, very robust. We cannot build our way out of this growth, right? We have to be really smart about it. 27% of the city is roadway space. And so if you think about trying to take away homes to build space, and we got to figure out where that connects to, it's just not sustainable. What we need to do is make sure that we give people choices. If people can take a bus down to the store, if they can take a bike, if they take walk, those are all things that that we want to provide. And obviously, when we have more people taking the bus, walking or riding their bike, it provides more space and option for people who have to drive. So that's our goal. So we're taking that approach, and we definitely understand that people have to get to certain places at a certain time, right? So we're very cognizant. But we want you to get there safely. We don't want you to get into a collision, right? And so that speed is critical when something does occur. And the most efficient way for us to really have people get to their destination is not have collisions, really. Because again, that impacts you, and then it impacts the roadway itself.
Transit's good. Okay, I'm going to come back over here. Okay. Go.
Thank you. We are living in an era now where there's overpopulation. You can see it happening all over the world. So in the future, we're going to have more space for cars. People aren't going to just switch to bikes. I know you would love that. We all would. But there's still going to be lots of cars. Admiral Way is not gridlocked right now. When you fix it the way and take out that middle space, we're going to see gridlock. And then what did the fire engines and the ambulances do? Do they get over in the bike lane? We really should be concerned about the future too, and what it's going to need to help all the people who are trying to drive in and out of the beach, in and out to go to work or to their homes. The new condos, yes, they're going up everywhere. We're going to see more and more crowding and complete gridlock.
Okay. This is good. I'm getting lots of exercise. I'll come back now around this side, and then I'll come right back to you, okay? So how about Kathy, then back over there, and then I'll come back to you.
Okay, I just want to answer the people. I don't know, how many people here live in Alki? And how many people usually drive up the hill? And what else do you have no other choice?
Take the bus, you walk, you ride your bike, you just don't just drive.
Right, that's why I bike. Okay. The point is that there's not going to be enough room for all the cars. And if a person wants to bike, they should feel discouraged from it. I don't have a bank, I don't have a drugstore, I don't have a grocery store in my community. I have a lot of restaurants, and that's very nice, but that doesn't help me in my day-to-day activities. I have to go to the doctor appointments, to classes for fitness, and I don't want to go up there and take a parking space from you because you choose to drive. I want to go up there in the most earth-friendly way I can possibly do it. We should be thinking about being sustainable over Seattle. And if you hop in a car to go 1 mile up the hill to get, do a little bit of shopping, you can take a trailer, you can get on the bus, you can walk. But we need, our sidewalks aren't very good on Admiral Way either. But you can't bike on the sidewalk because there are no curb cuts. They're big, huge curves, deep curves that you have to get on and off your bike all the time. And it's a good way for you to keep fit by doing your errands on a bike instead of taking your car. So, I don't know why I should not have a safe option. There's a sidewalk for people, there's a lane for cars, but there's no lane for bicycles. And I was passed by a car, I saw the speed thing, it said 37 miles an hour, a guy went right by me as I was coming up the hill tonight. And I'm gonna go down the hill in the dark. If they have a bright lane for me to go down in, then I'll feel a lot safer. Believe me, people cut the corners. There's not even a parking stripe. So they just weave all over the roadway. And bikes skid too, because the bike going uphill, the reason they need a 5-foot lane is because you kind of wobble when you're going uphill. You don't go very fast.
When I ride a bike, I'm a wobbler for sure.
As far as slowing the traffic on Admiral Way, doesn't the brand new light that was installed on 47 do that?
The traffic light on 47th is actuated, so if there is a person crossing, there's a push button, it will turn. There's a driver waiting to come out, it will turn, but it doesn't turn automatically, so it's on demand only.
Hello. I just have 3 more suggestions to add to Dawn's yellow sheet. One, for the crosswalk you're considering at 57, to the lady's point with the long hair, she's over there speaking right now. Trying to find ways to minimize speeds as you're going downhill would be very helpful. One of the ways would be for the 57th crosswalk, make it a crosswalk where it's kind of like what I see on Capitol Hill, where there's a blinking light. The traffic is forced to stop for the pedestrian crosswalk. That's one. 2, as I mentioned to Sam, that manhole cover needs to be fixed there because once again, the problem she has, we have that same problem at 57th where the cars hit the manhole and they are skidding all over the place. And 3, the railing that I spoke to Sam about for going down into Schmitz Park, because when we do this, the pedestrian traffic has already increased just in the year that I've lived here. It's going to increase 3-fold once we make all of these changes.
Working our way back, then we'll come back up to the front. I think actually it would be next.
You are the Department of Transportation. I find it disconcerting that the core values do not include preserving mobility in the face of all the development that we're seeing in the city. We do not want to be stuck in traffic. That should be one of your core values.
So, thank you. I'd actually just like to address that a little bit because I think we're a growing city, and that's just kind of the reality of where we live. And we're growing at 2.5% a year. And as Don Go mentioned, we can't widen our streets because otherwise we'd be taking people's buildings or front yards. So if we're going to have more people moving here, we have to carry them, make our streets work more efficiently. And that is why, as an example, last November, voters in Seattle passed Proposition 1, which added 15% more bus service around the city. So what we're really trying to do is get people on transit, make sure if that works for you, to get somebody on transit, because that's one less car on the road, because there's a lot of people that have to drive, right?
My bus service was fixed.
I understand that we don't live in a perfect world, and that some bus service was added, a little bit of bus service was cut. But I walk to work because I have the good fortune of walking to work. Some people have to drive. If you're a realtor, you have to drive to work. And so what we're really trying to do is deal with growth by giving people as many options as they can. So if you don't have to drive, you can choose not to. But if you do have to drive, there's fewer people driving on the road. That's fundamentally what we're trying to do. We're not trying to demonize people that are driving. I drive a lot on the weekends. We're just trying to help people move around.
The next transportation
Okay, so I think we're back over here now.
Hi, I'd just like to reiterate what you said about the flashing command responsive crosswalks. If you're talking about increasing transit activity on the corridor, people need to cross Admiral Way. And I can say I'm a mother of 2 children getting off the bus at 57th, which is one spot, so it sounds like it's on your radar, and also up at Garlow, straight away that sees the highest speeds. It's like a game of Frogger with my 2-year-old baby. And so one of the core values is getting people on the bus and increasing our options, which I ride the bus all the time, and I want to be riding the bus, and I'm on my way to ride the bus. A lot of people aren't like me that if it were more convenient would ride the bus. So not only, I mean, thinking about the crosswalks, which I think is really important, I'd like to understand, do we use those command responsive lights? In Seattle, I've heard that there's some in Ballard. I don't know why you can't use them in Admiral Way, and people are going to ignore something without a light. And then also thinking about the connection with transit and how we can bolster transit service down to Hawkeye so that we're not relying on school.
So the comment was about making crossing easier and more predictable and safer. And definitely that's something that we as staff take very seriously. There are many tools that we use. Some of them are very easy, like just the flashing lights. You've probably seen them. They look like strobes of emergency vehicles. They catch your attention. Very effective. It's a new tool that we've been deploying and very low cost. That's a tool. The other option is actually a traffic light, which is, again, tends to be a lot more resource intensive, meaning it can cost quite a bit for us to put in the signal bases, all the push buttons, so it winds up taking a lot of resources. When we put those in, we want to make sure that it has the demand and it has so that when we put the resource there, that's going to have the most value for our community. And so definitely, if there's a location that you think warrants that level of investment, we want to look at that location, do the counts, see what the site conditions are, and then we'll use the right tool to help with the costing. Absolutely. So when we do our counts, we have a lower threshold that we'll use for locations where there's vulnerable population. So transit users and school children and at parks and where there's senior centers, we cut our threshold even lower to make sure that we account for that. So what we know is that some people will try to cross because that's their only option, right? And so, but then there's a larger portion that may not even try because it's so difficult.
Okay, we have one back here.
Yeah, a couple things. First is a pedestrian issue at 53rd, where the westbound pathways going down the hill and curves a bit, and Lander continues straight. And that distance to cross Lander is so long that it is just not. I'm wondering if there's some kind of curveball or just markings or something that can be done on that. I realize there's somebody's driveway over there, but I'm wondering if that can be addressed somewhere.
Could you see me afterwards too, so you can show it to me? I have a smartphone. We can show it in, so I can edit it.
The other one is maybe more something connected with Metro, but since we have the new stop at 47th for the eastbound lanes, I'm wondering if that bus stop that's just right beyond that intersection might work better to shift it east.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so the meeting ended at about 7:45. It's now 8 o'clock. I want to be respectful of all your time. We'll spend another 5 minutes. I got to get back up to the front. This gentleman has been waiting for a very long time. But just to give you all a heads up that we'll go for about 5 more minutes, then we'll break. Do not forget that we have the comment sheets. We have the plot out here that you can write things on, and you have emails that you can get in touch with us on.
Thanks very much, Dawn. I just wanted to indicate on the comment sheets, you're asking for, comments on options A and B, but A and B differ and would appear from block to block. And there are a lot of micro issues here. I live on the 5300 block. between Southwest Stevens and Southwest Landers. Okay, thank you. I live on the 5300 block between Southwest Lander and Southwest Stevens. And if you could just put the slide up there, A and B, I'd like to comment on that, if I may. One more. There you go. That's the one. Okay. Safety being the first value we're trying to optimize. Option B would create lots of problems. One, you're maintaining the center lane there, which will add to speeds. This particular segment you showed in your data has the highest average uphill speeds along the whole route. So that would appear to be something that would not be desirable. Secondly, your parking study redone showed that the biggest parking demand was on the north side. You've taken that parking away in option B, and you will make all those folks cross Admiral Way on foot. That would not seem to add to safety for pedestrians at all. So from that perspective, it probably wouldn't be desirable either. So just looking at the two, it would seem that option A is very much preferable. Without the center lane, you're definitely going to reduce speeds, which is one of your key goals. And you'll maintain parking on both sides, minimizing unnecessary pedestrian crossing. And most of that demand's on the north side anyway. So I think A and B, those are the trade-offs here in this particular block, allowing that the situation down at 5700 may be different.
Okay, so let's go. Oh, okay, question before Scott leaves. Here we go. Scott. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to take two more. I'm going to take this one, and then we'll wrap it up for the night.
I was in Colorado for a long time, and there weren't any center turn lanes. So 20 years ago when I came here, I thought it was one of the few great ideas that SDOT had. And it would be a shame to see those go. I know that it's always going to be a somewhat of a safety factor for bikes going up and down Admiral just by nature of the way that it is. It's a steep hill. But it's also it's somewhat dangerous for cars as well. And pulling away the center turn lanes is probably counterproductive and probably a step back.
Okay, we got one more over here.
Thank you. So I actually have over 2 pages of questions and comments, but I'll just narrow it down to addressing some of the things that have been raised this evening. First off, it's not just about parking. Parking is important in Alki. Anyone who's lived here longer than a month, particularly in the summer, knows how important parking is. I just want to say that speed bumps or humps, whatever you call them, on each drive work for slowing down traffic. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work on Admiral. The bike lane going up Admiral, On the other side, on the east side of California, is, as the gentleman back there in the blue had suggested earlier in the evening, it's a bike lane going up and Sharrow's going down. I don't see why that wouldn't work on Admiral. On the other side, the comment earlier in the evening about drunk drivers causing accidents, narrowing the lanes isn't going to keep people from drinking, particularly in the summertime. We have a whole lot more bars on Alki than we had 5, 10, 15 years ago. The Alki Community Council worked for years to keep that from happening. The city said, huh? But what concerns me the most is you say this is a conversation, and yet over there on the bulletin board where it says schedule, it says fall and winter implementation. Well, here it is September, we're already in the fall. How can you say this is a conversation you'll be taking into account the things that we're saying tonight when you already have your implementation dates figured out, your whole season? It's going to happen fall and winter. And then you say evaluation in 2016. So if you evaluate in 2016 and figure out that all these changes that you're trying to roll over on us in a fait accompli have shown to not change anything, not to be an improvement, maybe to be a detriment, maybe to be a null set, how long will it take before you bring back our neighborhood the way it was before you changed it?
So all of our safety projects, we do data before and after, and when we do the analysis, again, these are very focused on safety. We're going to see an increase in collisions, and something that is not working, we want to address it. So it's going to be right away.
Thank you very much. I think we heard a lot today about the fact that people are afraid to walk across their street. And we need to do something about that. It's clear that we need to be looking at the street and seeing how we can make it operate better, and hopefully, offer people another comfortable way to travel as you can choose to drive or walk or bike. We've heard a lot of good information, and like I said, we'll still be taking some more back. Thank you for coming here and using your time here. I know it's very valuable, and we appreciate you doing that.